Good morning.
Good morning.
Timothy.
So before I invite our able president, Mr. Victor Olojo, for his opening address, I would just like to, do a little bit of housekeeping. I would just like to appeal to everyone that while the presentations are going on, we should try as much as possible to ensure that our mics are on mute so that we don't interfere with the presentations. You know how background noises can interfere with such things. And if you have any questions during the presentation, just note them down. We're going to give room for taking questions and answers after the presentations. So at this point, I would like to invite Mr. Victor Olojo to give us the opening remarks. Then after that, I will invite, I'll just do a brief introduction of my colleague, Dr. Banjo, Olubanjo, who will be taking us through the presentation. So Mr. Olojo, I'll hand over the floor to you now for the next 5 minutes.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Timothy, for your very brief introduction. So let me start by thanking all of our agents and specifically those who have joined from, several states across the country for making our time. We've been actually publicizing this workshop for quite some time, and I have no doubt that more of our agents will be joining in as the program progresses. Let me quickly thank the entire Lagos Business School team for this very great job and offer, specifically starting from Professor Olayinka David West. I mean, it's been a very great relationship from the onset. We've had and received tremendous support. I would like to thank the entire team of LBS and also Dr. Olubanjo will be taking us today. I want to say that this workshop is very apt and right at the nick of time because the COVID-19 pandemic actually caused a lot of disruption, in the marketplace. And it's important that we equip ourselves with the right knowledge and tools to be able to, go through this trying time. And of course, we know that the world is always progressing and we also need to adapt to the changes that comes with this progress. So, and I know that Lagos Business School is always on top of it, especially the SIDFS project team, would be sharing with us very insightful, tools and knowledge on how, we can be resilient and be better at what we do, in this new year. I mean, the year is still new, it's still early, and there's so much we can still achieve at this time. So I want to encourage all agents to ensure that they pay rapt attention, and feel free to ask questions when the opportunities arises, and also let's be all available and 100%, attentive to this program. I trust that it will be truly insightful. Once again, I want to thank us all. Please kindly remind your state chapter members, your zonal members, if you are here, just go on WhatsApp and send a reminder so they can all join and we'll all partake of this. Once again, I thank you all and I'm wishing us a very productive workshop. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Olojo. So like you said, so the reason why we're doing this is because, when COVID came, we became very concerned about the financial services ecosystem, particularly because the ecosystem was one of the industries that was primarily hit by the effects of COVID and things like that. And that was why we decided that, okay, we needed to do an in-depth study and develop a tool that, will serve as a guide for agents and other players in the ecosystem on how to build resilience, and be able to thrive despite the effects of COVID-19 and things like that. And so I don't want to preempt Dr. Banjo's presentation, but I'm just giving a brief overview of, the objective of today's workshop. So Dr. Olubanjo Adetunji is a research fellow, a very senior member of the Sustainable and Inclusive Digital Financial Services Initiative at Lagos Business School. He also leads our demand side work stream. And so he focuses on, research, engagements, and advocacy, particularly related to the demand side of the ecosystem. And he also led the development of the resilience toolkit that we'll be sharing today. So without saying more, I would like to invite Dr. Olubanjo Adetunji to take the floor now. Thank you very much. I'll see you later again.
Okay, thank you so much. Okay, I think I'm audible. Thanks so much, Timothy. Good morning, Mr. President, the executives, distinguished members of the associations, and my colleagues here present. So in the next few minutes, I'll quickly provide a background, well, actually a background to the toolkit, what informed our decision to develop the toolkit. Then after that, we'll go to the poll. So we actually want to hear from you. So sample your opinions. So then, because it has to do the poll question has to do with what we actually have in the toolkit. Then after that one, then I will just walk us through itself. Disruptions, when we hear disruptions, we always think that, oh, this I just probably have to do with crisis situation. Yes, because crisis situations and other disruptions, especially business disruption, which in the innovation cycle we call technology disruptions, they can actually affect our businesses, the way we conduct our businesses, and we have to really respond to it. So we have to have a model that is quite responsive, so that when the disruption, it's not a question of if disruption will happen, it's just a matter of when and the form that disruption will take. For example, political crisis, currently we are having a public health crisis. So we can also have economic crisis. We can have natural disasters. These are all crisis situations that leads to disruption in businesses. And apart from all these crisis situations, we can also have business disruptions. We're all thinking that agents are very, very needed. So we cannot do without agents, even in the provision of financial services, especially to the underserved and unbanked. But we can never tell. There might be technology disruptions. Just imagine rural areas or where we currently have now, because we have agents. Agents are indispensable because of the cash in, cash out. But let's say the situation just changed. The current situation changes now. Oh, in rural areas, everybody can have kind of maybe a little technology that's very, very easy to use. Even my grandmother in villages will be able to use that. And the infrastructure is maybe something that will just, maybe when you put it on, you just with anywhere you have sunlight, you'll be able to use it. And everybody's just going about using it. And we think that our agents, super agents are indispensable. And now start looking, then we can probably do without agents, or even the necessity of agent will probably even reduce drastically. So we have to be looking at all these things, the way they are happening. Well, some of us, I know, some of us here knew then Kodak. In those days, a couple of decades ago, Kodak was just all over the whole place. Photographers, everybody needed Kodak. They didn't really know that there was actually technology disruption. Maybe they knew, or they thought, it's not really affect them and everything. Instead for them to also change their business model or to respond and adapt to the situation, so that, but nowadays you don't even hear of Kodak anymore. Kodak used to be very, very indispensable when looking at the photography industry then, but no longer they've really gone under. So we can have disruptions as a result of crisis situations. We can also have disruption from technology innovations, from business disruption. So as businesses, although we are not like the primary providers of this financial services, but even as our own, we play very key roles, especially for our principals. So everything, because they are not even in the field really, so they need us to let them know, even because our survivors are, because it's our own survivor that will actually dictate to their own survivor too. So we have to also let them know this is what is currently happening. In as much as we are helping them ourselves, we're also helping them, if not even more. So we're helping our principal, the main providers themselves. So these two kids is also very, very important for us as super agents, as agents, so that we look at our business model. How is this current one? Because this is the particular this whole thing, we now have close to 4 million doses now. Maybe by next year, everybody will have been vaccinated, and we can put the whole COVID or this pandemic behind us. But that's not the end of the whole world. So we can not, maybe even before this one ends, another disruption, maybe as a result of crisis situation or probably even business disruption will happen to us. So we need this toolkit. And when we talk about toolkit, this is something that you do yourself. You have the box full of tools for you to use. Let me just use this one. Let me use this one. So it's not something like other things that we provide, like kind of report. Okay. Thank you. So it's not a kind of report that we ordinarily will just come here now and just present reports. These are our findings. I'll present the reports to you, and we ask you to probably leverage our findings. So leverage our findings and in making your business to run better. But this one we're coming in a very different way now. This one is a toolkit. When by a toolkit, something that is, you just go there and use it. It's like a toolbox. Which one do I use? Do I use this one? Do I use the one that has to do with my business resources? Do I use the one that has to do with my business activities? Do I use the one that has to do with my value and everything? So you have them very, very handy. And this one, from our own experience also, we found that, presenting our findings or helping, supporting the stakeholders in form of toolkits are actually very, very helpful, or more helpful, because it's something that they can easily use and they can easily relate with. So we have this. I will quickly go to, but we'll start with what the current situation that we have, which is the current pandemic. So I'll share my slides. Okay. I hope we can all see my slides. So like I said, so we'll just start with the current pandemic, really, and okay. My slides, I don't know why the slides are not moving. Okay, let me stop it and reshare. Okay. Okay. Looking at the current pandemic, I know even in the course of this affected, or it's still even affecting us in one way or the other, our business and everything. I remember the peak of it about a year ago when we had the first case and everybody to stay indoors, and the whole thing just shut down, really. I know the banks and every business shut down. I know what happened to even my super agent really, really affected. So we want to hear from us in one way this pandemic affected you even at the beginning, or it's still even affecting you now, really, because this one particular example, case of disruption, this is a public health crisis. It can also be a political crisis. In countries now, a country like Syria or Yemen now, for years now, the crisis has been ongoing. It's been affecting business and everything. So, but kind of the toolkit, a response toolkit, like a kind of response toolkit, very helpful. So whenever this situation happens, so even before it happens, you should be something that, I'm set. Some mitigations of things put in place to just mitigate. So when it happens, you just that process and everything will just fall in place. There's some that has to do with adaptation. It has happened. So imagine, nobody ever knew that this will be this, will last this long. Still adapt. It's not a thing, it's really important, really. So you just have to adapt to it and situations unfold, really, to keep. And at the end of the day, you even have to look at your business model. You don't even have to completely overhaul my business model, because the truth is a lot of business, especially financial services, in the industry, under, really, because they couldn't withstand it, especially they are also the one mostly affected this kind of situation. So restrictions in movement, law livelihoods, people normally come, they're not getting paid, no income, no resources, sending transfer and everything, really. So it's affected our customer, even it's affected our providers. They have to shut down, affecting our liquidity management, going to do our rebalancing and everything in terms of cost, revenue, and everything. Although we hear from you, but this kind of hypothesis, this one really affect operations of financial services. Then even competitive with our providers too, you know, a lot also happen within them. So some of them had to close their branches that are close to where you normally go for balance. You know, some of them, if they probably they are not in a good partnership. They don't have a good partnership relationship with other providers that have branches very close, that will have really destroyed their operations. So this is what we can see from this pandemic. And we also have for a number of studies were conducted even in the peak of this pandemic last year. So what did this policy and economic research in 2020 when this thing happened in Nigeria? What did they find? The disruption from this kind of crisis leads to significant decline in population mobility, even if the government did not even impose restrictions on the movement and everything. A lot of people still let us in, they won't be infected and everything. So that this actually visit to retail businesses out there, even when they even open up, you know, it's and everything. It led to more than half visit to retail business outlet were down by more than half within the 3 weeks. You know, December, I think late February, that we have our first confirmed case in Nigeria. So 3 weeks after that, retail businesses, which also we also have, we can also include agent outlets, reduced drastically by more than half within the 3 weeks of recording the first case in Nigeria. That's what the evidence. So I need also by ASEAN, 80% of our micro and small medium enterprises, they expect a decline in profit trend, with 30% of them recording more than 50% decline. Just imagine, these are kind of people that patronize us and everything. So if the business is down, so it's also affecting. Another is what are leading coping strategies? This has happened. None of them start offering on their goods services. So that means their own revenues kept falling. So some of them, so as our providers to that, what the income sources were from loan repayment, interest income, and everything. So MSN started skipping loan repayment, providers to and by extension even us too, because some of them probably even come to us to make those loan repayments and everything. So some of them even started cutting employee hours, and also probably one other use the way kind of what you used to cope. More than half of Lagos Trade, according to Lagos Trader Project, they are now moving towards the use of electronic payments. So this one thing that really showed us key findings, you know, even us too, as agents and everything, is something that how the downtown, how we do it now, where we're using just one technology source, source of tech providers, affecting all even our own, within our own super agent, we try to also play around developing some technology to aid our businesses in one way or the other. So this, when we look at all these things, it's within our team, we really need to support providers, providers financial services to our own target consumer groups, the underserved and the unserved. This resilient model is very, very key. So we just, let's look at this area, let's support our stakeholder with this resilient model toolkit with two key objectives: to just support our FSP, the agents, super agents, MMOs, banks, insurance providers, micro pension, so on and so forth, with key processes that can help them mitigate this, not just the current pandemic or maybe one century events, but we still, like I said, although we don't pray for this situation, but when we pray, we can't, even when we pray against it or not, there will always be disruption, business disruption, really. We don't pray for crisis, we don't pray for natural disaster, we don't pray for political crisis, we don't pray for economic crisis, although even insecurity, banditry all over the place. I want to believe what agents said are even affected with this kind of insecurity around the country and kind of our crisis situation. Though this toolkit is needed so that we can mitigate these things, so that we have a process or processes in place. So when this happens, we're very, very prepared. Also to provide FSP with viable action. It's one thing for us to mitigate it. If you mitigate it, we're still in business, but we also have to adapt, because it might be something that will exist for a long, not know when this book started. How many years ago, really? We're still not to look at business around areas, providing financial service. You can see sorry, I think, hello? Hello? Hello, can you hear?
Yes.
I hear you. Go ahead, but the audio is very poor.
The line doesn't seem so clear. So if you can help us.
Okay, even now? Okay.
I think it's getting better now.
It's clearer now. It's clearer.
Okay. Let me just know. Otherwise, I might have to just switch to another paper. Okay, so let me just continue this. I want to see where. Hello.
I'm thinking if you can switch to another internet, it might do. I think it has been like that for a while. Yes.
Okay. So let me. Okay. I'll try to switch. Let me see. Hello. Is this on?
Yeah. Yes. I think it's better.
It's okay now.
Hello? Hello?
Yes. Yeah, we can hear you.
Hello?
Dr. B, I can
We
hear
can
you.
hear you now. It's clearer now.
I'm not sure which one is better, really. Okay. Hello?
This is okay.
This is better. This is better.
Okay. Okay, so let's see. You know, it's when we're not in the office, it seems that when we're trying to use this one from home. Okay, so can I continue? Hello?
Yes, you can, sir.
Yes,
okay.
you can.
Okay. I hope this one will stay like this for a while. Okay, so like I said, so this actually prompted to develop this toolkit so that we can provide FSP with viable action steps, so that they can adapt their strategy, not just survive it a year, 2 years, and we're still in it, so that we're able to continue to provide financial services to target consumers. So looking at those that are mostly affected, I know some providers, especially the big ones, they usually have in place what they call the business continuity plans. And some of them were able, government, because of the critical role they play in the economy, so the government also, we have provision for them to government also come out to build them out. So I don't know how many of I think I'll just continue. This thing is still affecting, trying to, it's still unstable. So I don't know how many of our agents and super agents have been bailed out. So let me know if you have been bailed out. So we also need bailout. So looking at this one, so we know that there are actually operators or stakeholders in this ecosystem that we really have to support, because the government don't come to their aids. And even when governments make promises of coming to their aid, it doesn't even come very, very timely. So these are like the ones that we think this toolkit is very, very important too, and it's very, very necessary for them to just keep them in business and for them to be able to survive this pandemic. So in it, okay, okay. So I've sent it to. Hello, somebody. Okay, can we mute, please? Okay. You need bail. So you need bailout. So don't worry. So we channel that to the right. We'll channel that to our government, really. So that's what we believe, that we actually have players that we really need to support, because the government don't come to their aid, especially in times like this. So, Timothy, do you have the slides now? Although we'll soon be going to the poll. So the administrator will soon open the poll. So we want you to just want your opinions, because even before we now go to the details of the toolkit, before we walk you through the toolkit, we want to also hear from you before we go into the details of the toolkit, how the toolkit works, how you can make use of that toolkit, and how you can actually gain a lot, how the toolkit can really help your operations and keep you. Okay, we have Timothy trying to share his screen. So okay, thank you. Just go to the, before the poll, yeah, that one, okay. Just the slide before the poll, okay, thank you. Okay, you can put it in presentation mode. Oh, thank you, Timothy. So we actually designed this toolkit to take a thorough look at where the vulnerability can come from. Where do you look at? Because it's not just for us. I know some of us are interested in our bottom line, or in our top line, revenue, or the bottom line. So especially the super agent, or how much did we make from here? How much did you make from here? How much did you make from here? Or what's the profit like? That's very, very good, really. But in addition to that, we've actually tried to go into more details in terms of your business resources, really, your workforce, your delivery channels, even the brand, your presence in that particular location. How has the disruption, or how can disruption really affect that? Or how has disruption affected your workforce, your delivery channels, your liquidity management, all your activities, even your cash holding, the number of trips you make to do for your rebalancing and everything. So this is what the toolkit has done, what we've actually done in this toolkit, so that you can go into details and say, oh, it has really affected me, even for some provider, because it also depends on the kind of role you play in the provision of this financial service. Are you an MMO, or you a super agent, or agent, or you a provider, are you the big bank, or a microfinance bank, or a micro insurance provider, or a micro pension providers. So based on this one, based on what you provide, because your activities are actually different. So based on it, you'll be able to look at them. I remember the other time we were with the providers. No, some were, oh, they've never even cared. All they were interested in just the bottom line or the revenue. They've not had time to look at the details. What this pandemic or any crisis situation, what is it really affecting? For example, this Kodak, if they had something like this before, maybe, oh, this thing is really coming down, or this area of business, or in this particular, able to use this toolkit to say, oh, this is what is happening to us. I'll be able to mitigate that one, and not just mitigate, or even adapt over the years. Now, maybe the Kodak now will have been another Samsung, or will have been another Apple now. They have been very innovative and they have been changed. So that's what we don't want to happen to our providers in this ecosystem. We want them to still keep it, providing this financial service, so that any crisis situation or any business disruption that happens, they are still in business, they are able to respond to that, adapt, and be able to transform their businesses, even with or without government bailout. So be prepared, just like I think that's the motto of Business Card. So we have this toolkit so that we'll be prepared all the time to be able to respond to any crisis situation that come our way. So we'll open the Samuel. So we want to go to the poll. So we'll open the poll. I want you to have answer these questions there. Please, as many of them as possible. And although probably don't have asking you for the details, the actual numbers, it's just for them. It's just for you to be able to just assess it. I feared. Is it just something that in terms of perception, but as much as possible, we still want to leverage your data, the data even in your head right now. So we want you to use that one. So the poll is open. So you can start answering the questions now, and I will give you the feedback at the end of the poll. Thank you.
Okay, so we still have a few more minutes. If you've not done the poll, you can just quickly do the poll so that we can proceed. We'd like to have a sense of your responses. Anyone having any challenges with the poll? I can see we have only 30 responses now. Okay, Uche and Suleiman, we're actually having a poll, so there's no presentation ongoing, and that's why you can't hear us. So maybe if we can get 2 more responses. Okay, Dr. Banja, I think we have 50% of the participants who have responded now.
Okay, so you want to present the results for us to see?
Okay, Samuel, I think we can close the poll so that.
Or do you want? Okay. Okay, so let's just go ahead and look at what we have here from the opinion poll. So we have how useful are your physical service delivery points, your shop, your office now, because we're trying to look at 2 things now. We're trying to look at during the crisis situation. We are still in this crisis situation now, compared to what you had before this crisis situation. And we can see now that they're saying more useful. That means our physical service delivery points. I think this was actually expected. I'm happy that this one is being confirmed, really. So 80% of say, oh, the service delivery point, because this, like I said, this is still expected, because I still get emails from my banks that, oh, these are the branches that will be open this week. These are the ones that will not be open. So not all branches are open. Not even those ones that are open. If you have a choice to avoid going to the banks, I know many of us will not want to even go to the banks during this time. So really, I think this one confirms what our own hypothesis, that physical service delivery points are now more useful, with according to 80% majority. How efficient is your workforce? So how efficient is your workforce now as compared to before the pandemic? And as this one is not in between, so it's neither here or there really. So how has your productivity changed? This means you or your employees is neither here nor there, because what this one suggests is we are leveraging more on technology now, and probably less on physical on the human resources really. Even also, it's even possible now that even some of us now, I know we have anecdotal evidence to even show that many more people now are using digital channels now when compared to physical channels now compared to pre-crisis period, really. So this neither here or there. So I think this also tells us a lot. So how has the level of the following activities? It's talking about activities now. What we had before is just talking about your workforce, talking about your resources, because resources is the key workforce is the key resource for our operations, and also our service delivery points are also key resource. So let's now move to our activities. For example, how has the level of the following activities changed? Your new customer registration. Some of us are seeing now maybe, slightly higher new customer registrations. This tells a whole lot, so it has not declined. So and this also tells us a whole lot of even activities in that regard. So that's even this crisis has led to slightly more customer being registered by agents and super agents. Your transfer, this is also very, very key, and it tells you are very, very insightful that we're witnessing more increased transfer transactions, people sending money more frequently now when you compare to the. So this now tells us, where do I look at? When talking about transfer, do they come with although this one also we have to look at it again. Is it receiving? Is it sending? Do they come with cash to send? Or do they come to our shops to receive the one that have been sent to us? This also determines any which way it affects our liquidity management, even if they come with cash or if they go away with cash, in any which way it affects our liquidity management. So this all tells us a whole lot in terms of, so whenever crisis situation like this comes, so we should have something in place for our liquidity management processes, really, because we can see that transfer. For customer registration, we really don't have to go to, although indirectly, it might also lead to increase in the frequency of sending and receiving money, because new customers are likely to also send or receive money. Our liquidity management are also slightly increased. So in terms of frequency, how have your revenue changed? This is not talking about value. In terms of value, we're so happy. That shows that you don't need bailout. So the revenues have increased slightly. So we're so happy to hear this. So that means the revenues from our agents have increased slightly during this crisis situation, but it might not be the same really if it's, because this one is pandemic, they are asking people to stay, the government to try to lock people down, so try to restrict their movement and everything. So, but in a different disruption, if it's something that is, if a disruption that is caused by some other reason or from arising from another source, for example, business disruption or technology disruption, it might not be the case, really. Yeah, it might not lead to revenue increase. So it also depends on the nature of the disruption. if people are now using, finding alternative as a result of a technology innovation, finding alternative of doing their cash in, cash out, or they don't even have to do cash in, cash out again. They can just stay indoors, even without much knowledge of gadgets and everything. They can do that. It might be a different case. So it all depends on this, because this one is from as a result of lockdown. People are locked down, and so. But anyway, we're so happy to hear this, so that our revenue increases slightly. So then talking about resilience processes that we'll put in place, whether we are aware of it or we try to even implement this during this lockdown. For example, new collaboration and partner. We're happy to hear this, that you did this probably, although maybe during the question and answer, you want to tell us more about this one. What kind of collaboration or new partnership did you kind of engage with? Did you look for more for other providers? Did you try to partner with other providers or fellow agents or super agents? We would like to hear more from you in this regard. The market position, greatly. That means, yeah, people now know you now. People now, these days now, I was telling the operators, I think that was the last time, I know in another forum, that even when you come to Ajayi, where you have like 2 or 3 banks, and we'd say, when you add up the ATM point around that, it should be up to 10 or thereabout. Even in front of those ATM and the bank, right in front, you have an agent point. I was like, oh, why an agent point here? And because the man is still the man is still in business, or the person, whoever is still in business, for it to still continue. That means people, probably they see queues, or they because of this restriction and everything, a lot of queues, even up to now, maybe. So that's why you can now see that customers are now more aware. I'm happy to see this evidence, really, although we've kind of seen some evidence from other sources that customers are now more aware of agents, bank agents, mobile money agents now than ever before, and which we've all confirmed there. And in terms of our strategy, corporate social, yeah, although this one is not really, we've not done anything in this regard, probably because we are agents, or we have to also tell our principal, so our providers, to look more in this regard, so that if during this crisis, like they've been doing kind of corporate social responsibility even within that community, especially in rural area for the undeserved and the unbanked, really. Maybe it will have even increased more. Our revenue will not just have increased by just this 53%. We probably will have been talking about 80% now. So thanks so much, ladies and gentlemen, for this insights that you've provided. These are quite helpful, and it greatly help us. So it will make even the discussion even easier, even as we go into the details. So in the next couple of minutes before I'll do that in the next 15, 20 minutes, just 15 minutes or thereabout, just take us to the toolkit itself, so that at the end of this day, we'll just throw the floor open to questions and answers. So Timothy, next slide, please. Thank you. Timothy? Okay, thank you. So the components of the toolkits, the toolkits adds 2 components. And that's why it's a toolkit. Like I said, this is not like our conventional research output. We just come with our findings. Look, we just come with our findings. These are what we found, and we just present to you, and you go and use it. But this is a toolkit, and it has 2 components. It has the diagnosis check, because we are they call it something DIY. Most of us now, some of us just go to YouTube. You want to do anything now and just DIY, just go to YouTube. How can I do it myself? It's DIY, do it yourself. So it's actually a do-it-yourself thing. So you'll be able to do a diagnosis text, and you see recommendation, just supporting whatever input you've supplied. So, and we have this link here. It's also in the toolkit. Once you just launch this link, you just go to I will show us what the summary of what you find. If you go to this one, you have this in the toolkit. Just launch it, supply. But what we want somebody that like the manager of the business itself, if it's a big organization, wants somebody that is actually know what's actually going on and to has access to other add data to support whatever options we are choosing in our diagnosis check, really. So next one, please. Next slide, please. Thank you. So in terms of diagnosis, like I said, I've just shown us, you want to launch that link, supply your data, and to kind of, we have 4 areas. I've made mention of these areas even earlier. So I'll do that one again. So we have the first area, what we call the business resources. The business resources look at your workforce. So we examine your workforce. You answer it yourself. As my workforce, how this thing affected my workforce? Or how is any crisis situation going to affect my workforce? How is it going to affect or has affected my finances, my brand, my service delivery point? You've answered some of, you've answered questions in a couple of these areas. In our strategies, we've also seen that one, even from those are your resources, because those are the ones that generate the revenue for you. And your activities, the activities that you perform, liquidity management, cash holding, and so on and so forth. So you also do a check of your activities. So, and this one depends on the kind of the stakeholder or the player. For the agent and super agent, that will be quite different. The activities are quite different from the operators themselves, quite different from micro insurance provider or micro pension providers or microfinance banks, really. So this one measures how well these activities were performed. You just rate it before disruption and when you have disruption, so that you continue to check this thing. It will really help you. Oh, I can see my liquidity management is really affecting me. My customer registration is affecting me, or this funds transfer is how it's affected. You look at it, not just our revenues alone or our cost alone, but the kind of the different activities that we perform. Are they being impacted, or are they likely to be impacted in any crisis situation or in any disruption? So we look at that one. Next slide, please. Then the third one is the value itself, your financial performance. Remember, before we are here now, or we got here now, we look at our resources, we look at our activities, but this is what most of us all look at, if not virtually everybody, just what's my profit? What profit am I making now? Or how my revenue now? What are my revenues now? And so on and so on. But before we get to this is actually the value. Anyway, that's the cocoa of everything. But before we should have looked at our resources, our workforce, our brand, our service delivery points, our activities, kind of new customer that we're registering, in terms of fund transactions they are performing, fund transfer, in terms of the liquidity management, our cash holdings, and so on. Before we now look at this, really, so am I making more profit, more revenue, less revenue, my costs, how my costs affected, and what's really the one driving that cost and everything. Then before we now check, finally, we now check your level of awareness of the common resilience practices. We have a couple of them. You remember, even in the course of this presentation, some of the things that our MSMEs, what they did to just stay in business. Some of them just sack or reduce their workforce, or try to say work from home, reduce when we call you back, or try to default in their loans, restructure their loans and everything. These are things that help one to keep to stay in business. So we'll ask you here, are you aware of this one? Have you even implemented it? If you are not aware, so we want our players, providers to be aware of this one, so that in the next disruption, we're not saying that there is going to be a next disruption. That's the truth. That's just the bitter truth. That's going even after the whole of this thing. Although we still don't know how this one will last, when everything will go back to normal, if there will ever go back to normal and everything, especially in the provision of financial services. So these are the next slide, please. So these are just the diagnosis checks that we perform. Next slide, please. So after this one, you now come up with a scoring grid. In terms of our resources, this is just indication of, oh, I have a score of above 20, is indicate that, oh, I want to believe some of us will not be performing badly, especially as agents in this crisis situation, but the story might be different in another crisis situation, really. So if you have above 20, oh, I'm not doing badly. But you look at what has worked, also look at what has not worked, what you can improve. If you have between 15 and 20 in terms of your scores from your resources, you know, I really have to look at improve on a couple of areas so that if another crisis situation, even currently as I have it now, I can do better and respond better so that I can still continue to provide these services. But below 15 shows that this thing has really, really affected us, affected our resources, our workforce, that's affected our service delivery points and everything. So you take this after this workshop, so we'll open up, you have the link. So you take it, I'll just show us a sample of what the questions look at. We're also taking some of the questions, sample question from this thing. That's what some of us answered in our poll. So you can see, oh, I'm not doing very well at all. So I have to really be flexible. I have to adapt to the needs of, and actually have to look at priority areas so that otherwise the next thing is the agent will probably close shop. So and we don't want that to happen. So if you do the diagnostic check and we're getting below 15, so you really have to look at it because that one is telling us that if care is not taken, the person might run out of or close that shop in that area. It's just a matter of time before the agent will close that or the super agent will close the shops. So this will help us in our resources. Next one, talking about the activities. Next slide, please. So we also have scores there, but in this kind of thing, you just compare your scores before this event. For example, now this pandemic, and your score, you just answer it. But like I said, it's always good for us to have some things, some hard data in place, kind of what we can, although we are not putting real figures there, but we can just compare the thing. You answer, what was it like, my customers before this pandemic, or my new customer registration now? It will give you a score, compare the scores. So if your scores during this event, if it's more than your score during before the event, that means the difference is 0 positive. That means you're not doing very badly, really, but you still have to look at, you have insight because they have different, the levels of the activity. You look at the one, for example, now, we can see that the customer service, CSR, customer responsibility in the area, we have to let our principal know, even before any crisis, let's come and even do a market activation activities in this area. Just maybe your 2 or 3 staff, let them come into this area and let them dance around this area. Or even if it's possible, give them leaflets, do something, one thing or the other. Maybe in a community, some of us are in charge of a town. So we can ask them to come and do these things so that these are kind of, even before a crisis, this will help you whenever the crisis happens. For example, now we have these bandits and this level of insecurity. For agents or providers that have very good relationship with that community, that the provider, their principals have been doing a very good, they have a very good CSR in place. When crisis comes, they'll be like, no, don't touch. I remember when they were doing this NSAS of a thing. They burnt even some churches and everything. They came to a church. They said, no, about 400 of them came to that particular church, big church. They wanted to force their way open to that church and just loot and everything. But then we said, no, don't do this one. During the pandemic, this particular church, they gave everybody, in this area, people that are less privileged, they share food, palliatives, and everything. That's how about 400 of them left. And they went to another church just close by and just looted everything from that church and everything. So that's the effect of, that's the importance of CSR. So that when crisis comes, when crisis situation arises, your CSR will speak for you. So you try to compare this, your activity before and even after. And if you're positive, that's good for you. If it's not positive, that's also, you just look at the areas that you just have to look at. Let's go to the next slide, please. Okay. So the third point is on around our value, while the fourth is on our resilient practices. So your value, this is like basically what we look at. We look at whether our top line is very good, our bottom line is very good. So we look at our costs, we look at our revenues and everything. So if you have an average score, that means you're just average. If your score is more than average, you are doing very well. You also have to look at the drivers, your cost driver, your revenue drivers and everything. But if you have a minimum, you also have something to look at. Then there are resilient practices. You just look at the different area, whether you are aware or whether you've implemented them or not. And okay, thank you. The network was on and off. My apology. So that's just the 4 areas that you look at, even when you have access to this diagnostic tool, so that you take this test and be able to even grade yourself, look at the areas that you have to improve on, look at what you are doing well, whether you are even aware of something that can help you if any crisis situations arise, and be able for you to be able to mitigate and adapt. Next slide, please. So this will now generate recommendations for us at the end of the day. After this, after we assess ourselves, after we check our resources, business resources, we've checked our activities, we've checked our value, we've checked the awareness of our resilience practices. This will now present recommendations for us. That's what the tool will do for us after we answer all these questions as many of them as possible, as much as possible, candidly as answer them candidly as much as possible. We'll have recommendation which will look at the mitigation practices, suggestions, because they are recommendations. You have to look at it. Even we ourselves, we also see from this one, if we're able to look at those things where we are doing very well, we are not doing very well, we will also know. So it's just suggest or recommend to us this in your resources, your workforce, what you do in terms of your workforce, what you do in terms of your service delivery points, what you should do in terms of your brand, in terms of your CSR, in terms of your activities, your sending and receiving money. Is the one doing well? Your new customer registration not doing not doing as well as your funds transfer and everything. So be able to do what you do, what you want that can do in the short term or before anything happens in future, what you should do to adapt if anything happens, what you should do even in the long term. Some of these things you cannot do on your own. You have to escalate this on to your principal, to the providers themselves, so that along the line you can do them together. So it's from the short, medium, some of them you do before, some of them you do when the thing happens, and some of them you even do in the long term, working with your principals. Thank you. The last the slide. So like I said, these are more, many of them are more strategic. So I'll just go through the last slide and I'll throw the floor open to question and answer. These are just highlights of these recommendations. Can I have this last slide, please? Okay, so like I said, because you are agents, we are agents, we have principals. So we work for providers. Some of these things or some of them you can do on your own, maybe a few of them, or some of them you have to do with working with your principal. You can do your own workforce on your own, even communication you have to do with your principal, even digital channels, you work with your principal in this regard, or as much as possible, a number of them you can do. In terms of your strategy, most of it has to do with working with the providers themselves. These are the mitigation that you even put in place before or immediately this crisis happens. Then the adaptation is even in the short term. You have to tell them, work with your principal. We have to look at the performer. Even we have to look at this revenue sharing of a thing. Even this time and everything, you have to look at. There are some of them, community and customer awareness. You have to have a process in place so that when crisis happen, they won't just come to my shop and burn everything down, really. So these are adaptation strategy, really. New collaboration, some of us said we did actually this one. Corporate social responsibility, I've mentioned this one. Change your cash holding threshold and everything. The transformation is basically you do this one you work with your principal, the providers themselves to do this. So this brings us to the end of this toolkit, really. So we'll now show the floor open. Maybe I'll just quickly show you 1 or 2 minutes and we'll show the floor open. Timothy, you can stop sharing this. I think that's the last slide is thank you. I want to believe. Okay, thank you. So if you see this, when you do, you have the Timothy and the team will send the full toolkit to us. From there, you see the link. You can take the test. If you take the test, this is something that this test will look like. If from your resources, you just choose your agent, your super agent, less performing, about the same. You look at your activities, business strategy. You've answered some of this on there. You can compare the pre-event to what you have during the event. And these are the activities. Then you have for your value of your revenue change since the start of an event. It has increased or it decreased or remained the same, profit and everything. Then resilience practices and the rest. This just, you have that really. So you take this diagnosis test as soon as you have the toolkit and with the link in it. So you can even assess yourself. You can see where I'm doing well, where I'm not doing well, what needs to be improved, what needs not to be improved, where the ones I have to escalate to my providers, and even to that if any in the event of any other crisis situations, I will be able to survive. Even when you are in business, if only when the agents and the super agents are in business that the operators, your principals can also remain in business. So thank you so much for your time. It's been, I don't know, so an hour plus or so. So I'll hand over to Timothy or to our president, Mr. Olojo, before I think we'll just go to the question and answer straight. We have about 13 more minutes then before we now round off. Thank you so much for your time.
Yes, thank you very much, Dr. Banjo. So I think it's important for us to take questions. Maybe during the presentation, there were 1 or 2 questions that came to mind. We can just quickly take those questions before we round up at 11:30. Okay, Adeni Adiemo.
Okay, thank you. Good morning.
Good
Dr.
morning.
Banjo, thank you for the wonderful presentations. And I'm Yusuf Adeyemo, the National Program Director for the Mobile Money in Nigeria. And most sincerely appreciate this. I'll go straight to the point on, you said something that you want us to share. What are the strategies that we're using as the collaborations that you said you would like us to share? That I think I just want to make just an input there. That what we do during the COVID-19 period, we have to adapt into strategies of agents collaborating between each other. Like when someone is having excess cash, then another person need a liquidity, like a cash for his own withdrawal. We'll try to form a kind of a cluster group among, and then sharing that fund instead of, because the bank is closed, there's no way we'll have to share the money. I can give an example that even during the COVID-19, that the NSAS also came in one particular town, which is in the Sharing in Oyo State, very big. All the banks there were closed because of NSAS, and then they could not do anything. The agents within that town, precisely, which is close to like 200,000 populations, they have to do a kind of a collaboration. This is one of those examples that we try to do during the COVID-19. And we still have a lot of more, but these are one of those things that we do. We also partner with some of the organizations like the MMO to do a kind of a training, like what are the coping strategy, what is the problem that you are facing. And these are the things that are really helpful during that period. But on the last one, I want to ask the questions. You talked about enabling remote working capability. And then we make one of the strategies is to cut off as well of the working force. And you know, as our own business, we need a physical appearance, as in you need to have a physical locations. And in that sense, how do we, don't you think that to say, okay, we want to remove the working force, and then we still want to have the locations, we will not be able to do transaction digital, as in I don't sit in my house and be doing transfer or withdrawal, and I need a staff to also be in this place. How do we manage these areas of the coping strategies? I think that's just the little questions that I want to ask there. Thank you.
Thanks so much. I think that is this very, I love that that particular scenario that you painted there, really, because it's just try to buttress what we are saying in terms of partnership collaborations, and even looking at that particular instance of this answers of a thing. So, and we're also very happy to hear this actually coming from our agents and so on, even from the initial pool. So coming back to that coping strategy, the one that has to do with workforce, even for it's not applicable. Sorry, can we mute?
Okay, go ahead, Dr. Banjo. I'll just mute this person.
Okay, thank you. So it's not really, some of these things and some of these coping strategies are not applicable across board. Remember, if you look at what we're saying, those that will be using these toolkits, we have the operators themselves, we have the microfinance, we have the microfinance bank, micro insurance providers, we have the bank-led and non-bank-led operators, mobile money operators, even PSBs now, we have them. So they are all not applicable to all stakeholders. Even those ones that are, for example, agents now, it's definitely, even we know it's something that might not really apply to you in the real sense of it. Even those ones that they might apply to is always the last resort. It's always the one that comes last after you've explored all areas and everything. There is one strategy they call follow-on. Follow-on is the one that, you can just, okay, temporary, let's just take like, I know a couple, 50% salary cut, or when things are okay, you'll be back. Not that we are asking you to go and everything. But anything that has to do with employee should always come last. And even in this case, like it's rightly noted, it doesn't even apply to you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Banjo. AK Fresh Concepts, I saw your hand up. I don't know if you still want to ask your question. Okay, or if any other person has.
Okay, someone just sent me a text. I don't know, maybe it's not, his voice is not working. He said, okay, is there any fees applicable to the use of this toolkit?
Okay, so the toolkit is available to you for free. There is no fee attached to it. And in fact, when we're sending an email after this workshop, we'll be sending you a copy of the toolkit for your use. And if you have any feedback on how you think we can improve on it, or maybe you feel that there are one or two, what do I call them now? Maybe one or two indices that you feel that should have been included, you can always get back to us so that we'll take that into consideration as well. So it's available for free.
Thank you. Maybe if for the any last one, I think maybe in the Toolkit, maybe when we check it, I also want us to look more of the areas of during this period, how we put a kind of a security and protections of the agents in the loss of their fund and collaborations with other partner. I think from the security aspect, because agent has been prone to a lot of security during this period. How best we can, as a kind of a assessment, that if we put one or two things, we're able to know that agent is at the risk, or maybe these are the likely mitigation security strategies that we need the agents need to be to use, or even the MMO and the mobile money, the super agent, how they will also support the agent from the security aspect of it. I know it's a very big one, and it's also one of the critical success factors for the agent, as the bank are not open during that time. Even now, I think this area, I don't know, I'm not saying it's what we did, but I know that maybe by the time we have the full resources, but I also use this opportunity since some other team members say maybe to ask their questions. That's my own observation as from the national office, because we have received a lot of issues from the security issues, and then it's even across that the agent have to do transfer mistakenly or something. How do we protect the customer interest of the agent as well? When the agent has an issue, who protects them? Who supports them? Thank you. That's my own final contribution. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Dr. B, you want to respond? Good.
Yeah, thanks so much. I think with that, maybe we'll just, every other question you can just, we're happy to take. Sorry, kindly help us mute. Okay, we are happy to take other questions. So this is very germane, very, very important, although we try to include the security part of it really. And my response was just like two ways really, either the direct one or the indirect one really. So the one that is directly as a result of the crisis situation or as a result of disruption. It is something that probably is recurrent, whether there is crisis or no crisis. We've been having this one. So although we try to include that one as some part of something that you look at, especially in collaboration with your providers, with your principals. But for this one that just peculiar to this crisis situation, we are happy to include that in the toolkit. So in this, we have to be very specific. Then other things, like I even say, some of these that even some other indirect approaches really, or process, or kind of activities, or even, like for example, now look at this, the crisis situation, you will be so good, or your providers, your principals are very good CSR in that particular community, and even we ourselves in everything. No, people will just come around and even surround our shop. No, you are not touching this place and everything. But if you have the one that have to be specific, we are so happy to hear to have that one. You can get back to us in there. But in terms of security, either direct or indirectly, once we try to include it in the toolkit as a part of the coping strategy or the resilience strategy. So at this point, I'll hand over to Timothy for his closing remarks and the next steps. Once again,
thank you very much.
Thanks so much for your time. So it's been a wonderful time.
Thank you very much, Dr. Banjo. But sorry, I can see that one Osaru has his hands up. I don't know if he has any question or he's just up. So if it's not very long, can I just appeal that we take his question?
Okay, you can go ahead. So I think we can take down.
Yes, Osaru, do you want to ask a question? Okay, so I guess not.
Okay.
Then maybe we can take Victor going. Okay, so they are not coming forward to speak. So I think we can just round up now.
Okay.
Hello, good morning.
Okay, good morning, Asaro.
Yeah, thank you for this opportunity to take part in this training and workshop. My major concern is like I'm in Benin, and for everyone that is familiar with agency in banking, the situation in Benin is very gory these days. Sometimes agent has been killed, shop assistants has been killed because of this. After the NSAS, prisons were opened, and most of these boys, they don't have their soft target became agents. Like my brother rightly asked before, we in Benin, we are in their need of security for these agents, and our principals are not, a lot of them, or 80% of them are not in support of protecting these agents in this area. I don't know if there are any designs or strategies that agents can put in place, apart from the normal one, like the CSR that we talked about just now. Some of us even have to start paying local vigilante groups to put an eye on our business premises. But still, just last week I was attacked again, and this is the second time. So I don't know if there is any designs that we can implement in this regard. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Osaro. Victor, you've unmuted, so maybe you can quickly take your question too.
Yes. Hello, good morning. Can you hear me, sir?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Good morning.
But please make it very brief because
yes, I know that is. Yes, I want to ask a question. Now, as regarding agency banking and payments to state government, how are we supposed to go about it? Because the harassment for this revenue state government revenue enforcement becoming something else. Even if you tell them you are registered under Amon as the case may be, or any other association that you and agents may likely belong to, they seem not to want to listen, and it's becoming something else. And you know how it is generally with agents. When we say let us come under one umbrella, so to make things easier for us all, it's really a headache for us to come together. So I just thought I should ask how we're supposed to go about it. Then possibly get some things like on how to help and help other agents get Thank you very much.
okay, thank you very much. And apologies, we may not be able to take any more questions because of our time. It's already 11:34. But Dr. Banja, I don't know if you have any responses to the questions that have been asked. I know you've addressed the issue of security before, saying that the toolkit itself is, limited to the effect of disruptions like crisis, the pandemic, and things like that. It doesn't really, tackle security issues. But again, on the second question, I think his concern is about multiple taxation, from several revenue collectors and things like that. So I don't know if you have any advice. I know that it's something that we've looked into at LBS. I don't know if Dr. Banja is still there.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay. So particularly on that second question, I don't know if you have any advice for the agents, particularly the association. So he was talking about multiple taxation,
this has been a recurring thing. So even before this, it's not just. I'll still want them to continue along that line because it's something that you might not be able to do it at individual level, really, because something that's as an association you can take over. And we're so happy to actually make it like a discussion point, even whenever in any other forum that we have. So it's something that we're happy to engage you further and try to, in any other, when we have other stakeholder meetings. So where we have the policy makers, so where we have the providers and you yourself, I think that will be a very good forum. So Timothy will be able to work with you in that regard. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Banjo. And I think from the sense that we have, I think Amban has been doing a lot in that regard. You know, I know that they've been very vocal in a lot of our engagements, you know, speaking against the issue of multiple taxation as a major challenge that agents are actually going through. But on our part at LBS, one thing we'll continue to do is to continue to, you know, create that platform in our conferences and in our several engagements where, you know, your association can come and, you know, begin to advocate for a reduction in multiple taxation and things like that. And I believe that, you know, through our platform, your voices are being heard, and gradually those changes are beginning to occur. So yeah, so I think that's it. I don't know if Mr. Victor wants to say anything, but at this point, if there is no other contribution. Okay, Mr.
Nothing
President.
at all other than to say thank you to you and the entire team. And
thank
to
you
thank
very
you
much.
guys for availing us this great opportunity. And to all members of the executive board of AMBAN, zonal, state, chapter, chairpersons, and all of our members who say thank you very much for making our time for this. For future events like this, please, I would like to urge the LBS to avail us with, even if it's soft copy of certificate of participation, you know, that would also help us as agents, you know, so please, thank you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Victor. Your concerns are noted. We have some certificate courses that maybe we can discuss that offline, that we can make available to a few members of the association as well. So once you get the toolkit, if you have any questions, or you need any more clarification, you can get across to us through the association. I will be happy, you know, to answer your questions. And even if it means us sitting down together to look at the toolkit one-on-one with you, we'll be happy to do that. So once again, I would like to thank everyone. Thank you, Dr. Banjo Adetunji, for the wonderful presentations. Thank you, Mr. Victor, for you know, mobilizing your members, and to my colleague Samuel that worked with the association to make this a reality. Thank you very much. So at this point, I will say have a pleasant day and a great week. Bye.
Okay, bye-bye. Thank you.